Today we will take you into the world of stories. Welcome to our channel. Ever wondered who really pulls the strings in Washington, D.C.? We often think it's our elected officials, but there's a powerful, often invisible force at play. Lobbying. Today, going deep into the world of lobbying to see how it shapes the laws that affect every part of our lives. This isn't just about men in expensive suits handing over briefcases of cash, although the money involved is staggering. It's a complex, sophisticated system of influence, and we're going to break it down using a real-world case study. So, what exactly is lobbying? At its core, lobbying is the act of trying to influence decisions made by government officials. This can be done by individuals, but more often, it's carried out by organized groups. Think of corporations, industry associations, nonprofits, and even unions. They hire professional lobbyists to be their voice in the halls of power. These lobbyists are often former government officials themselves, representatives, or high-level staffers who know the system inside and out. They have the connections, the access, and the know-how to get their message heard. This is often called the revolving door, where public servants cycle into lucrative private sector lobbying jobs, raising questions about whose interests they truly serve. The main currency in this world isn't just direct campaign donations, though that's a big part of it. It's information and relationships. Lobbyists provide lawmakers with detailed data, research, and arguments that support their cause. In a world where a congressperson has to vote on hundreds of different issues, from agriculture to artificial intelligence, they can't be an expert on everything. Lobbyists fill that information gap. They help draft legislation, suggest amendments, and provide talking points. They build long-term relationships with politicians and their staff, becoming trusted advisors. The problem is, this advice is never neutral. It's always tilted to favor the interests of the client who's paying the bills. Let's dive into our case study. The pharmaceutical industry and prescription drug prices. It's an issue that affects millions of Americans. We have some of the highest drug prices in the developed world. Why? A huge part of the answer lies in lobbying. The pharmaceutical industry, often referred to as Big Pharma, is one of the most powerful lobbying forces in Washington. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars every year to influence policy. In fact, they consistently outspend almost every other industry. Their primary goal is to protect their profits. This means fighting against any legislation that could lower drug prices. One of their biggest victories was the Medicare Part D prescription drug benefit, passed in 2003. A key provision in that law explicitly prohibits the federal government, the largest purchaser of drugs in the country, from negotiating lower prices with drug companies. Think about that. The government can't use its massive buying power to get a better deal for taxpayers and seniors. How did this happen? An army of pharmaceutical lobbyists descended on Capitol Hill, spending over $100 million in a single year to ensure that provision was included. Many of the key congressional staffers and members of Congress who pushed the bill through later went on to work for the pharmaceutical industry. The revolving door strikes again. The lobbying doesn't stop there. Big Pharma also lobbies to extend patent protections on their drugs. A patent gives a company exclusive rights to sell a drug for a certain period, usually 20 years. This allows them to charge high prices without competition. But they've developed clever strategies to extend these monopolies, often called patent thicketing or product hopping. They might make a tiny, insignificant change to a drug's formula or delivery method and apply for a new patent, blocking cheaper generic versions from entering the market for years. They lobby to make these practices legal and fight any attempts to reform the patent system. They argue that high profits are necessary to fund research and development for new, life-saving drugs. But critics point out that these companies often spend more on marketing and lobbying than they do on R&D. Let's look at the players. It's not just one company. It's a massive ecosystem. There's Patrem, the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, which is the industry's main trade group. They are a lobbying juggernaut. Then you have the individual companies, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Merck with their own teams of in-house lobbyists. They also hired dozens of outside lobbying firms. The hired guns on K Street, which is the famous street in D.C. known for housing lobbying firms. Together, they create a full-court press on lawmakers. They donate to campaigns, run issue ads on TV, fund patient advocacy groups that echo their talking points, and sponsor academic research that supports their positions. It's a 360-degree influence campaign designed to make it politically difficult, if not impossible, to challenge their business model. So what does this look like on a day-to-day basis? Imagine you're a member of Congress. A bill is introduced to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Within hours, your office is flooded with calls and emails. Lobbyists scheduled meetings with your legislative director for health policy. They bring slick presentations filled with data, some of it legitimate, some of it cherry-picked, warning that price controls will stifle innovation and lead to fewer new cures. They might also subtly remind your chief of staff about the campaign donations they made last cycle and the importance of their manufacturing plant in your district. They will fund a TV ad campaign in your district saying that this bill will ration care or get between you and your doctor. It creates a storm of political pressure that is very hard to withstand, especially when the other side doesn't have nearly the same resources. The opposition groups advocating for lower drug prices, like ARP, or patients for affordable drugs, they lobby too. But they are vastly outspent. For every dollar spent by consumer groups, the pharmaceutical industry spends hundreds. It's an incredibly lopsided fight. This is the reality of lobbying. It's not necessarily about who is right or wrong, but about who has the resources to make their voice the loudest and most persistent. This story isn't unique to the pharmaceutical industry. You can see the same patterns in the oil and gas industry, fighting climate change legislation, the tech industry, fighting privacy regulations, or the financial industry, fighting for deregulation. The playbook is the same. Overwhelming financial resources, strategic information control, personal relationships, and the constant spin of the revolving door. It creates a system where the interests of powerful, wealthy corporations can often drown out the voices of ordinary citizens. So, is the system completely broken? Is it hopeless? Not necessarily. Public awareness is the first and most crucial step. When the public gets engaged and outraged, it can create a political force strong enough to overcome even the most powerful lobbies. We've seen it happen. Grassroots movements have passed significant legislation in the past, but it requires sustained pressure and a clear understanding of the game being played. Supporting campaign finance reform, advocating for stricter ethics rules around the revolving door, and demanding more transparency in lobbying are all potential solutions. The story of lobbying is the story of power in America. It's a complex, often hidden battle that shapes the laws we live under and the society we live in. By understanding how it works, we empower ourselves to participate more effectively in our democracy and to demand a government that is more responsive to the people, not just the powerful. It's a long fight, but one that is essential for the health of our democracy. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the systems that shape our world. See you next time.